Hi guys, I'm here again for another sharing, and the topic that I'd like to discuss is actually a continuation of the part 1 on relationships. And this time, it's not just about the wife, but the synergistic relationships between husband and wife, particularly when arguments do happen. Number 1, the first thing, and this is the reason why it's number 1, that you should never ever ever do to your spouse is you're going to badmouth them to anybody, even to your friends, to your family or relatives. Never ever do that to your spouse. And I think the same thing goes to any person. Uh, it's better that you don't try to destroy someone else to another person. Why? Because it would be unfair to that person. She or he is defenseless in that effect when somebody is destroying her reputation or her name. And the funny thing is, if you would badmouth someone to any person, is that pag nagkaayos kayo ng taong ito, sinong nakakahiya? Sino yung walang mukhang ihaharap? And whatever your issues are with your husband or with your wife, you have to talk it out with him or her, not with anybody else. Number 1, kasi wala namang pakialam ang ibang tao tungkol sa issue ninyong dalawa. So, why should you drag other people into the situation when it should be just the two of you talking about it? If at all, and you can't handle it anymore, always pray to God that, sana matapos na yung issue ninyo or magkaayusan na kayo ng asawa mo. Because ultimately, since you got married and you have been blessed by God to be together for eternity, it only means that only God can be able to help you resolve the issues that you two have. And that's if you let God in your relationship. You know the many times that I have counseled relationships with friends and some family members. The first and foremost thing that I usually tell them is, have you two talked it out first before letting me in? Because essentially, you and your husband should be able to try to talk things over before getting a third party involved. Number 2 is you have to give respect where respect is due. Meaning, respecting her as your wife or respecting him as your husband is a major thing in your relationship. And it goes to show in number 1 that if you badmouth your husband or your wife to other people, that means you don't respect him or her. When it comes to priority, number 3, your husband or your wife should be your main priority after God. It wouldn't be your kids, it wouldn't be your parents, your in-laws. It's supposed to be just your spouse. And that's why a lot of couples, one partner would say they feel that they are taken for granted simply because they feel that they are not the top priority of the other person. So, that's number 3. Your husband, your wife, or your spouse is your top priority next to God. Number 4, even when you're arguing with each other, you don't stop loving one another. Which means that as a wife, if you're angry at your spouse, your husband, you don't stop cooking for him. You still cook for him. You don't stop giving him what is due to him, even in the course na magkabati kayo. Work talaga ang marriage. It's not just a walk in the park. There will be peaks and valleys in your relationship, and it's about going together through this journey. It's having a co-pilot, and together both of you would go through it, hurdle through it. Which brings me to my number 5. Marriage is really work, hard work. And if both of you stop working for it, it's really going to fail. Meaning, if pride gets in the way of not trying to work things out, like, he is always in the wrong, he should be the first one to apologize, or she's always in the wrong, she should be the first one to apologize. It should be that both of you should remove all of your pride and work things out together, regardless of what the issue is. Even if it's a third party. Believe me, even if you have a third party, you and your partner should be able to work together and hurdle through it together. Remember the thing about third party or cheating, you most likely knew for a fact that your partner will do that. So you have to deal with it, and you have to deal with it together. Again, whatever your problem is, it's also a problem of your partner. Whatever the partner's problem is, it's also your problem. Why? Because when you got married, two flesh became one, and that is biblical. Also, if you have children, I have to say this again, but the children are usually the collateral damage when couples separate or when couples argue. They feel like it's always their fault that their parents separated. They feel that it's their fault that their parents argue. So you have to take into consideration, if you're going to go through this separation with your partner, you have to think of your children. Also, the worst thing that couples could actually argue about is the issue of money. Like many couples who are newly married, of course, when you're just starting, you don't have that much. And it's reasonable that on the first few years, you'd probably be renting out. But your plans should be for the future. Therefore, you don't go buy around stuff and not be able to think of the future that, oh, I have things to pay pa pala. I have kids to put to school. So, I think literally when two flesh become one, even your minds should intertwine together and work as a team. Again, it's pilot and co-pilot in order for you to get through financial hurdles. And also when you argue with your spouse, try to practice this. Listen to understand. Because most couples, when they argue, they listen to respond. You see? So there's no understanding, there's no comprehending what the other person is trying to say. Kaya ang nangyayari is paikot-ikot lagi yung away. Rule of thumb, and sana maging practice ito, medyo mahirap, is huwag kayong mapipikon. Even if may masabi na hindi nyo gusto, huwag mapipikon. Kasi once na napikon ka, or yung partner mo, nangyayari, nagtataas na yung boses. Parang nagiging sigaw na. And then, syempre, in denial na hindi sila sumisigaw. Pero, once kasi nag-raise ka ng voice mo, that is the time that you actually lose control. So, that sums up my part 2 in relationships. I'm not sure if I would have a part 3. So stay tuned, and thank you so much again for watching and listening to my sharing, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!